Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is February 16th, and today we're going to talk about this next system coming down over us for this weekend. Bringing some pretty cold air into the region here. Winter is not over yet. Checking out the current weather right now, you can see the ridge still dominating the weather in the Pacific Northwest. We're going to have a weak system move over the top of it on Thursday, but nothing much to write home about. And you can see that system developing over the Arizona, New Mexico area. It's going to bring a snowstorm for portions of the Midwest all the way up towards the Great Lakes. It's going to bring some severe weather for the southern plains there too tonight and into tomorrow for areas of the southeast. Some strong tornadoes possible. And also, as you look at this infrared satellite, check out this really cold air up there in Alaska. The infrared satellite kind of picks that up, that really cold ground surface, makes it look like high cloud tops, but that is actually at the surface. So this is the next system out here. You can see this really deep mid-latitude cyclone move over the Aleutian Islands here. And this cold air here too is going to ride up over the top of the ridge, get reinforced by a little bit of Arctic air, and then come down over the Pacific Northwest here. It's going to bring some pretty chilly air into our region. And we're really going to cool down by Monday and Monday night. And there may be some residual troughing going on, still bringing some precipitation into the region here when we get the colder air. Some of the higher terrain, higher elevations of the lowlands might pick up a little bit of snowfall or some small hail or maybe even a couple of lightning strikes as we go through the system here Saturday, Sunday into Monday. So here we're checking the weather across the country as well now. We got winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings in anticipation for that storm moving across the Midwest up towards the Great Lakes here. You can also see some winter weather advisories for the Rockies of Wyoming and Montana into Colorado with some winter storm warnings for the front range of the Colorado Rockies there too. And as we dive on into this, you can see that cold front, this Arctic air kind of making its way south across the plains here. You can see the southerly winds in front of that and the northerly winds behind it. And that's where the snowstorm is going to develop here as these subtropical moisture kind of gets thrown over this colder air mass with some pretty good snowfall amounts going through the central portions of the country there. Checking out the severe threat for the southern plains here, Oklahoma and Texas mainly. And you can see that there is a tornado threat going on here as this is going to be in the overnight hours actually, or after dark at least. And there's going to be some embedded supercells with a tornado threat going on there, but not a photogenic setup whatsoever. And going on into Thursday, there's an enhanced risk of severe weather down there. And you can see there is a tornado threat with that and possibly significant tornadoes in this hatched area. So if you have family members down there, if you're traveling or any interest down there in this region, just a heads up for that threat. Now jumping back to the northwest here, you can see this is the landslide potential now. It's all very low for all the regions across Pacific Northwest now too. This is just trying to give perspective when we do get those atmospheric rivers and it does raise our threat. When we get on the right side of this line is when we're in danger for landslides mainly. And you can see how that's one of the benefits of being on this east side of these ridges here too. It eliminates your precipitation, but it also keeps threats like landslides at bay. So jumping right into what we can expect, the next 3 days are going to be generally mild conditions across Pacific Northwest. You can see all the way into eastern Washington and Oregon, down to the lower terrain, the Columbia River Valley there. Some nice temperatures going into the mid 50s. You can see that as we move into Thursday, some pretty good temperatures all the way down to southwest Oregon there. They've been having quite the warm winter down there. And we go into Friday and you see similar conditions as well. And so enjoy these few days. We get to this system coming up this weekend. It's going to be pretty chilly out. You're going to notice the pattern change as we get into this weekend. So let's go ahead and dive into that. So I'm going to back this up a little bit here. We're going to take a look at this storm system out here that I showed you earlier over the Aleutian Islands. This mid-latitude cyclone tapped into this really Arctic polar air here that came off of Russia, and it developed, and it's moving over the Aleutians now. And you can see that colder air there gets a little bit reinforced here by some Arctic air here as it moves through. And then it slides down to the Pacific Northwest. It's going to bring some really chilly air over our region here. Going to bring some lower snow levels, a lot of mountain snow, and potential for some lowland snow actually, especially on some hilltops, mainly through western Washington. The coastal ranges, Olympic Mountains, and all the mountains throughout the Pacific Northwest are going to get really good snowfall amounts out of this storm. And then you can see as that cold air gets out of there into the extended, and we'll take a look at the extended here coming up briefly. So checking out the system that's moving out over the plains and up to the Midwest. You can see it down over the Southwest USA now as a very weak system moves through the ridge here on Thursday. No no impacts here for the northwest. And then you'll see the next trough as it starts to dig down. This really cold air gets out over us here on into Sunday morning and Monday and on into Tuesday morning. You can see it even kind of another shot according to the European here, as this ridge kind of guides this trough down over the Pacific Northwest and then opens this trough up over the Intermountain West all the way to the southwest. And in the extended, again, this ridge is just kind of playing cat and mouse with us, allowing some systems, but not very wet systems into the region here, keeping our precipitation deficit intact. And this is looking at the surface map here, according to the European. You see the system slide east of the Rockies here on Thursday. And then you can see this next system kind of come down, and you see the trough and get out over the Pacific Northwest here too, as you see Arctic air start to build into British Columbia here. Pretty good shot of it into British Columbia, and there's some residual troughing over the Pacific Northwest here going into Monday night and on into Tuesday morning. So this is the danger period where we get some lower level snowfall here, mainly through western Washington, perhaps even some of the higher terrain down there in Oregon too. We'll have to watch out for that. And especially through portions of eastern Oregon and eastern Washington, as this Arctic air mass is pretty well established here going into Monday night and Tuesday morning. Now let's see what the GFS has to say about that. This is looking at 18,000 feet. There goes the Midwest storm system there, and the weak system on Thursday moves through with no impact for the Northwest. And then the deep trough digs out over us here. GFS in good agreement with the European here, mainly into Sunday morning as that digs out over us. Doesn't really have that secondary shot come through Tuesday, but it does a day and a half later. There looks like into Thursday, another shot grazes us as this ridge steers that trough down into the southwest USA here. And then the ridge again is playing cat and mouse with us into the extended period. And we'll look at the extended Euro here coming up as well. This is the Canadian model here too. Let's see what it shows as far as the system this weekend. You can see that weak system moving through Thursday, good agreement. And then, like the GFS and the European, good agreement on this sharp trough digging out over the Pacific Northwest here and bringing us our lower snow levels as we go on into the weekend and early next week. So we do have high confidence in this storm coming up here. And we're going to watch for snow in some of the higher terrains here. We'll look at the snow maps here coming up. Let's just look at the GFS surface map here first. Then we'll look at some of the snow maps coming up here in a minute. But you can see this trough opens up pretty good over the Pacific Northwest. This is the GFS surface mean sea level pressure. And you can see that Arctic air kind of build up over British Columbia there and steer down over us. And GFS kind of has it coming in two parts. Mid next week, it brings that secondary trough down over us with some Arctic air in British Columbia. So a little bit of difference there between the European and the GFS. So we'll see who wins that round. This is looking at the snow map across the country now. You can see that snowstorm move up across the Midwest, Great Lakes, and onto the Northeast. And then you'll see the Northwest start to get its snowfall here into the weekend on into Monday morning as the snow really piles up over the higher terrains. And if you look closely, you can see a little bit of snow building up over the lowlands there, western Washington, maybe even some of the higher terrain down into the Willamette Valley here too. So taking a look what we can expect snowfall wise. Of course, we're going to update this as we go in the next few days here, but just taking an initial look as we move into this weekend. Here we are into Saturday night. You can see the snowfall start to really pile up here over the Cascades and the Olympic Mountains. And as we keep pushing this into the future here, this is probably melting, this stuff you see in the lowlands at this point. It's not going to be quite cold enough by Sunday to get much down to the surface, except that these may be a little bit of a convective nature. So we might get some brief snowfall down to the surface, but it's not going to stick as what it's showing here. You're not going to get this kind of snowfall accumulation more than just a brief moment. However, as we go into Monday morning and on into Monday night, you can see more of this snowfall starts to pile up in some of the higher terrain just around the Puget Sound here, even down to sea level, it looks like. But this is going to be convective in nature, a lot of it. And so a lot of this is just going to be brief, and the temperatures are going to be very marginal. So this is not going to be a big icebox event. This is not like December where we're below freezing during the daytime or anything like that, but it still could be fun to watch, and we still get a lightning strike or two out of this and maybe some small hail. And plus, look at all the snow that's piling up over the Cascades of Washington, Oregon, even the coastal range, and like I said, maybe even down to the lowlands a little bit, and higher terrains of Oregon really getting blasted pretty good, and the Rockies of Idaho and Montana will get their fair share as well. So jumping into what we can expect, this is at 5,000 feet. Here we go into Thursday, and you can see the cold air start to approach from the northwest here. Here comes that cold air marching down over us, and it gets pretty chilly over top of us by Sunday morning. And you can see this Arctic air in British Columbia get really close to the region, and some really cold air aloft by Tuesday morning. So if we're getting any resultant troughing at all going on here, and any kind of convective activity at all, it could easily drop the snow level down to the surface for the time that the snowfall is occurring. As soon as the showers pass, it will go above freezing, and it will start to melt though, however. And plus, there is a potential for lightning and some small hail during this too. And like I said before, just huge snowfall amounts up in the higher terrain, the mountains. So checking out the lightning density flash according to the European here, and you can see some of that coming through your Saturday evening, and you see a little bit of it show up. Oh, we're going a little too fast here. You see a little bit show up over the Puget Sound there. And as you go into Sunday, a little bit more, southern Puget Sound, Willamette Valley, all that to the Washington coast, maybe eastern Washington. And this is just kind of highlighting that this is convective in nature. Check out Monday afternoon, Puget Sound highlighted there down towards the I-5 corridor towards Portland, some eastern Oregon. But I just wanted to highlight the convective nature of a lot of this. And looking at the GFS, surface-based CAPE, as we go into Saturday afternoon here, you can see that we're dealing with some convective available potential energy. As we go into Sunday as well, you can see the CAPE values around Willamette Valley, Puget Sound, the coastlines are pretty good. So there's a chance for a lightning strike. And if this gives us the ability to tap some of that colder air aloft and drag that snow level down closer to the surface than it might normally be. As we go into Monday as well, there's still some CAPE around. You can see it, especially with the Cascades, Olympics, and down through Oregon there. So just wanted to highlight that. That's going to be the key to getting some snowfall down to the surface, really, is just get under one of these heavier showers or convergent bands that move on shore into Oregon, or convergent zones through the Puget Sound up through Washington to get snowfall to the surface. And finishing up here now, so this is the 15-day precipitation anomaly. And you can see the West Coast is really abnormally dry on through early March, really, with that ridge kind of steering our systems over the top of that. Does not allow these high water content storms to come out of the southwest and give us our higher precipitation value storms onto the West Coast here. And it really shows up here well on this 15-day anomaly map here on the European. So this runs through early March. So playing cat and mouse with this ridge here, it's keeping our precipitation totals down. But so anyway, finishing up, just watching out for that storm system moving down this weekend. And we will take a look at that tomorrow and the next day too, and kind of pinpoint what kind of activity we can expect, whether the main threat's going to be thunderstorms or if it's going to be lowland snowfall, because there is some pretty cold Arctic air getting close to the region here with this system. So we're going to have to keep our eyes on it here. So if you guys have any comments, leave them in the, or any, ideas, any feedback, leave them in the comments, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.